5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're tuning in to us from, and welcome to another episode of The Mindset Show. I'm here with Justin Sua and Lauren Johnson, fired up to get another awesome episode in where we are talking all things mindset and mental performance. As you guys know, we've been starting the shows with some tabletop questions just to get the vibes going and get the juices flowing here. So, Justin, Lauren, let's get it started. We're actually filtering into summer here, and so I thought a great tabletop question could just be, what is your favorite season and why? Justin, what do you got?
Ooh, I am a hot weather guy. I love summers because summers represent obviously baseball. We're going out. For me, represents vacations, and also my kids are out of school, and so we get to mess around, play around, and go to the beach and have fun. Just sunshine and so summer hands down for me.
Love it.
That's good. I like the mid seasons, so I like fall and spring. And so right now fall and spring are probably my absolute favorite because while I like all the season change, I like the heat and I like the cold, it's like by the time I get sick of the heat, it changes. And by the time I get sick of the cold, it changes. And those like in between seasons are like my favorite.
That is great.
That's awesome. Listen, I'm a New Englander, everybody. All right. Fall is my jam. Give me some leaves changing. Give me some apple cider, some cider donuts. Give me a flannel with a winter hat on and some jeans. Like your boy is so happy. So New Englander, the falls, everyone, we know we love it. So gotta represent that a little bit. Absolutely love the seasons. But hey, we get a little bit of everything here in Ohio too. So we're hanging tough. But all right, guys, we have some awesome, kind of different questions today. I'm really excited to get going on some of these. And so, Lauren, we're going to kick it off with you. So when we're talking about how to get out of a slump, right? So everything with our process is right, but the results aren't there. How do we adjust? How do we flex? What do we do in those types of situations?
Yeah, so I actually had a certain situation happen with one of my athletes where he came to me and he was, 0 for 15 and he was really, really struggling and he was really frustrated. He's like, I'm doing this, and I'm just still not getting the results. And so what we did is we kind of went back to the drawing board and I said, okay, let's redefine what success is. Because if success is getting a hit, if success is hitting a home run, if success is, fill in the blank, let's take the result out of it and let's make your process, executing your process, the new definition of success. So I said, let's pretend, obviously, when the ball leaves your bat, there's nothing we can do, absolutely nothing. So up until that point, up until you make contact or not, if you do A, B, and C, that would equal success. What would those things be? And so what we had to do is just really redefine his way of looking at what success was to him. Instead of a stat, it became something within his control. And at that time, up until then, he felt really out of control, really helpless when he was at the plate. His confidence was suffering. And so then he identified, okay, when I am on time, when I swing at the right pitches, and when I have an external focus, those three things breed success. And so if you're in a slump, if you're struggling because you're like, man, the process, what I am doing is not getting the results that I want, start focusing more on what you do and obsessing less over the results of what you do. And so when we did that, when he would evaluate performance at the end of the day, he would be evaluating it based on this new definition of success instead of the results itself.
Like those, correct me if I'm wrong, those things you mentioned, Lauren, they're all in your control.
All within your control. And it doesn't mean that results don't matter. Of course they matter. And so we may have to refine, we may have to make some adjustments. But when we're so focused on the end result, sometimes we forget to focus on the things that get us those results. And so that's one way that we can do that, is just bringing our focus a little bit closer to the things within our control and letting the results take care of themselves.
I like that.
Yeah, no, I really like that. And we could almost say next question. I think Lauren really buttoned it up and tied a bow around it really well. I think also when it happens, when people, it's very easy to say trust the process when things are going really well. Like it's easy. It's, oh well, we're just,
So
you hear that. Oh, we're trusting the process. We're trusting the process. Or what do you attribute your success to? Trusting the process. But when things aren't going well, like that question you described, that Brian, that's frustrating
Mhm.
when you think you're doing everything you could possibly do and still not get the results. You look to your left or you look to your right and you see people who aren't working as hard as you, who don't care as much as you do, but they're getting the results. And then you just throw your hands up in the air. You're like, what am I doing or not doing? And then here's where I think people really struggle. The frustration sets in.
Mhm.
All of a sudden you get angry. All of a sudden the emotionality of it starts to come in. And once emotions start coming in, we're human, you're going to have emotions, but sometimes those negative emotions can derail us and distract us from learning the lessons from the adversity we're facing. So it's one thing to have adversity, you want to learn from it, but if you're so angry and so frustrated that you don't learn the lessons, then you're going to compound those things that you're doing or not doing. And so one thing that I like to do with some of the athletes who I work with, or performers or executives or whoever, um, is have kind of a cognitive checklist. And so basically asking yourself a set of questions. It could be one question, two or three. So the three questions I really like to have someone ask themselves at the end of the day is, number one, what was the best part about today? Really, to not what did I do well, but what was the best? It could be what did I do well, whatever question you want, but what was the best part about today? Really to help them hunt the good stuff.
Mhm.
Really, okay, what was the good part about today, even if it wasn't something I did? Number two is, what did I learn? What is a lesson I learned either from my own success or the success of others or the failures of others or my own failures? What is something I learned? And then number three, what am I going to do better tomorrow? And so as you constantly ask those questions, you'll be able to pull out the lessons regardless of the results, day after day after day. And so that's just something I just wanted to piggyback off what Lauren said.
Man, I think you're both talking a lot about just the difficulty of high performance, and I think, from all of us, two of us working in baseball currently, Lauren, like you previously working in baseball, I think that's something that we saw a lot, obviously, with failure being such a profound part of the game. And I mean, Justin and I were actually talking about this before you got on, Lauren. Like, we were talking about like players doing everything right, like smashing a baseball and it going directly to a guy standing in a field, not even having to move. And he did everything right, and yet he failed. And being able to sort of overcome that mentally in and of itself is just as difficult, because I'm sure, like we've all seen, it's like when you are in those slumps, like you're the guy that hits the ball really hard and it just goes right to a fielder, right? And it's just like, and like Justin said, it's like that frustration continues to compound. And I'm with you, Justin. I've found that journaling to be really helpful for players. And it's funny. It's almost like a combination of what both of you said, where the journal has literally nothing to do with the results. It's focused and it's opportunistic for them to write down all of the things that they accomplished in that day that are in their control. Right. And so it is things along the lines of like, and even rating themselves, like on a scale of 1 to 5, how good of a teammate were you today? On a scale of 1 to 5, like how much intent did you have in your at bats? On a scale of 1 to 5, like how is your attitude after each at bat? On a scale of 1 to 5, like just continuing to emphasize those things that they can actually influence, touch, manage, and control, being so powerful. And again, it's like, it's even breaking down the word process. Like when we say trust the process, like what does that mean? Well, the process, like for at least in my opinion, is like it's the different habits that you have throughout the day that lead you into a position to put yourself in the best spot to be successful. And so when you look at all of those things, and if you did all those things, if you did all those little habits perfectly, if you had intent and you were deliberate, like that's the hard part, right? Like that's the hard part in the day. And then what's the easy part in the day? What's the fun part in the day? Oh, I don't know. Maybe playing a baseball game for 3 hours at night. Like that's the easy part. That's the fun part. You want to get out of a slump? Be more loose by knowing like I did everything in my power to be in the best position, and now I just get to go play. I just get to go let it out and express myself. I think that's oftentimes a lot of how you bust out of those slumps, is because you take away the tenseness of it and you become a little bit more loose because you're breaking down the different definition of what process is.
Well, sorry, go ahead, Justin.
I was going to ask you both a question, Lauren and Brian. Like, what if someone's watching this and they're like, "I love it, great, I'm all on it," but you guys, and doing this for so long, working with some of the best in the world, how do you know, or what advice do you have for someone to take a what if their process isn't good? What if their process needs to be, it's too much? What if it's too little? How do people vet their own process? And sorry, I know this was a part of it, but hearing you guys talk, you kept saying process, process, process. What advice do you have for someone to kind of vet their own process? Is it right for them?
Yeah, I'll go ahead. So I think that it takes, just like we evaluate performance, we have to evaluate our process and ask ourselves, what is working, what is going well, what could be improved, and what can we learn from that? Because I do think that it's like anything, like a baseball swing, making a baseball swing more effective, making the way that you're pitching more effective, making your strategy more effective is the same as your process. And so I think that just by having a process, I think is the first step, right? But then refining it is part of the process. It's creating the thing that is going to put you in a position to be most successful. So I think that we have to question it. We have to look at it time and time again. And I think where we get probably we can put ourselves in a bad position is when we get so used to our process that we forget to adjust it. We forget to ask questions about it. We forget to look at where we can improve. And to use your line, Justin, is that you're never too good to get better.
Mm-hmm.
And so your process, while it's good, what's some areas, if you were going to be picky, could be better, and why? And I think that some of it, like you said too, a lot of times it doesn't have to do with doing more, but also how can you do less better? How can you do what you already do better? And that could look like maybe not a habit in terms of a physical habit. Maybe it's a thoughtful habit. Maybe it's a habit with your thoughts. Maybe it's a habit with, your body language. Maybe it's a habit with, the way that you speak to yourself. But how can you do what you already do just better?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think like there's the deconstruction of it, kind of like what Lauren's talking about here. And again, I mean, I'm very primed to sort of go back to like the routines and habits, but I think about like whatever your world is, like in baseball, a lot of times, like when we get new players, like we actually develop like a bit of like a routine tracker for them, and it's deconstructed. So it's like if you're a pitcher, right? Like it literally said if you're a starting pitcher, like they're on a 5-day like routine, right? And so it's like it deconstructs day one, fundamentally, what do you need to accomplish? Physically, what do you need to accomplish? Medically, what do you need to accomplish? Mentally, what do you need to accomplish? Personal, what do you need to accomplish? And it's like it's chunked out like that. Day 2, day 3, day 4, then start day, and then it just starts over again. And so like, I mean, if you're really starting from the bare bones, like fill in the blanks for whatever it is. If you're a business person, it's like, okay, like more like morning, like physical habits you want to accomplish, like personal goals you want to accomplish, like mental goals you want to accomplish. And then at work, it's like, whether it's like, deep work, like habits you want to have, like all those things, it's just finding ways to deconstruct it and start to sort of build up what that actually looks like for you and what you find. And again, it's about putting ourselves in the best position for when we perform to feel like we are prepared. I mean, that's the purpose of a process, is to put ourselves in the best position to be successful when the lights are on, when it's time to perform. And it's like, when you do that, it's you're free. You don't question, oh, if I had just done this earlier today. You don't question that stuff. You're ready to go. And that's like all your focus, energy, and effort is just in the game. It's like the ultimate opportunity to be present because you did all the boring shit earlier that day.
Yeah. Well, and one thing I want to add is it reminds me, Justin, that question reminds me of like assembly lines. And I was watching how it's made, and it was, I think it was like hot dogs. And what they had to do was that it like, first they like fed the meat into the casings. And then when the casings came out, there was like a process to that. And then the process of putting all the casings or all the finished hot dogs, like in this area, they had a very distinct process.
Mm-hmm.
And my question was, the first time they did that, it didn't look like that.
Yeah.
First time they did that, it probably was, I don't know, if I'm just making a guesstimate here, maybe, took double the time.
Yeah.
And they had probably many more steps. And I think the more refined we get, the more simple and impactful each step of that process is. And so it's kind of like, what does your assembly line currently look like? And how can you improve it as we go?
Yeah, what I hear from both of you is you're talking about awareness, self-awareness, situational awareness. So you're talking about being able, like, you can't change what you're not aware of. And I'm thinking of the image of, have you guys ever driven down like this highway, and on the highway, especially long stretches of like the back country roads, where they have rumble strips.
Mm-hmm.
And when you drive over the rumble strips, it goes brrr, like vibrates the whole car, and it kind of like wakes you up. And I actually Wikipedia it a little bit ago. I Googled. I'm like, okay, what is the purpose of those things? Because I know what it does to me. And the purpose of the rumble strips are basically to help you wake up, pay attention. It's for distracted drivers, people who are getting out of their lane, like literally getting out of their lane, to bump you right back, to lock you back in. And I think what you guys are describing are your process as these cognitive mental rumble strips.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, these are my rumble strips, and when I start to veer off, okay, let me get right back. Let me get right back. And so it's cool how you guys are articulating it, because I think whoever's watching this, I think there's a lot of great points you guys are making, and I think just really identifying, okay, what's my lane? What can I control? What's my focus? How do I make it better? And then when I start to veer off, and we know that our mind wanders nearly 50% of the time, have those rumble strips, boom, get you right back on track. It's cool to hear you guys describe that.
Oof, I love that analogy. Sorry, I mean, we could talk about this the whole time, but just
Yeah.
maybe one more question. So like I've heard both of you talk about constant work in progress. Do you think the best performers like continue to refine and adjust and change their process even after being successful?
I do. And the only reason I say that is because just we have a very unique, the three of us, to be in the front row of the best in the world. And the reason I know, because I ask them,
Mm-hmm.
I'm able to ask them personally, hey, and to hear them tell stories of Hall of Famers, tell stories of how they adjust their swing, how they adjust their approach and they say, I don't read it in a book. I didn't listen to it on a podcast. It was just experience. And I just, my body started to catch up with me. I just needed to make adjustments as the game started to change. And there was guys I talked to who had career years, and then they made an adjustment the next year. And so if that's not a lesson on you're never too good to get better, then I don't know what is.
Mm-hmm. So true. And I just think the moment, and your post the other day, Brian, I commented this on it because I think it's so true, is that the moment that you believe you're a finished product, you stunt your ability to grow.
Mm-hmm.
What's really funny is I reflected on it as I was writing it. And there was one time in particular, I felt like this. I felt like, oh, I got it. Like I got all the ideas. Like I am set. And it was right out of grad school. I thought, like, I got my degree. I know everything. Like, what else is there to know? And I can do this. And it's so interesting how life humbles you, right? And it tells you, wait a second, no, you don't know it all. And yes, sure, you might know the theory behind this, or you might know and understand the science behind that, but your ability to then connect with the person you're talking with, your ability to translate that information that you know in a way that is impactful to someone else, like right there, it was like an eye-opening moment. I'm like, why aren't they getting it? Like, why isn't this person understanding? And I made the mistake of believing, because I knew this, that this would translate easily to somebody that didn't. And so I had a little mini moment of that, where that was like taught to me, where I was like, you know nothing. And
Yep.
the more, essentially, I feel like, and I'm sure you guys feel this way too, the more you learn, the more you learn how much you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much I don't know. And I think that too, you can see it in history, right? I've talked about it before, like Polaroid, they didn't adjust when the photography market turned digital. And then they turned into like, a niche market.
Mm-hmm.
And we look at Blockbuster, they didn't evolve. And there's now a Netflix documentary on Blockbuster, which is quite ironic.
Yeah.
So, when we look at these things, what we see is that, and Tiger Woods actually said this, anyone could be good for a week.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone could be good for a month or even a year. But can you be good for a decade? in a decade plus.
Mm-hmm.
That's what truly separates the good from the great.
Yeah, I, I think like the idea of evolving and even like the when you sort of get there, right? Like when you think you get there. So I'm listening to "Stillness Is the Key" by Ryan Holiday right now, and I just went for a run this morning, and the part on the book that I'm at, he talks about like for a lot of great people when they got to their perceived mountaintop, it was like super disappointing
Mm.
because they just like didn't prepare for afterwards, or it's like they think there's going to be this magical thing. I mean, and you know, he talked about it in just like multiple different, he's like, you know, you open your bank account and you have seven figures in there, like get like nothing changes like that kind of material thing does not give you the excitement and the like perceived purpose that you have. And it's this idea of sort of like ever evolving. And like Lauren, I know, I mean, you mentioned like that post that I had, but it was just that idea of being a constant work in progress and all the different facets in our lives that require constant work. And it's like whether it's like being more mindful and present is a constant work in progress, or it's belief in ourselves and confidence is a constant work in progress, or gratitude and happiness is a constant work in progress. Problem solving is a constant work in progress. And if you know, being a good husband and a good dad is a constant work in progress. And like all of those things sort of adding up. And again, like that's okay. Like leaning into that, I think is the part, because I think people shy away from that because they think that you should just have it be done, and then once you're done, that's it, and it's you never need to change. And like you're supposed to feel a certain way, right? Like you're supposed to feel the
Yeah.
mountaintop when you get there, and then like all the light shines down on you, and that's it, and everything's perfect. And you know, for everyone watching this, I hate to break it to you, but that's not real. And so, sorry.
That is so, it's, you got this. You just, my mind's exploding with all these thoughts. It reminds me what you guys are saying as well is, so before we got onto this call, Lauren was telling us about just things that are going on in her life, and she's and what I love what she said is, and I've known this about Lauren just for over the years that we've talked, she's getting better at writing now. And now, what's it as she's training herself to write? Yes, we write in grad school, but there's not a course on writing. But chances are, but here's the thing: if you, we'll just take this career in particular, you got to be able to speak, like you learn how to speak like a public speaker, and teach like with education pedagogy, ask questions like an interrogator, write like an author, think like a scientist. There's all these different other sub skills that you don't just learn in grad school. You got to go to other industries
Mm-hmm.
and see how they do it in their industry. The storytellers, like tell a story like these script writers in Hollywood, like studying those things. And I think about Colby. Colby, there was one year he talked about how he studied sharks. He studied sharks in 2003 so he can learn how to cover Allen Iverson. And so he's like, wow, like he stepped into a different species to learn how to get better. But I think that's part of the process as well. What other industry can you go into to optimize that micro skill that you're trying to figure out? I love that aspect of it.
Mm. I also love how you just described what mental performance is. So, any grad students watching this, all those things that Justin just described that you don't learn in grad school, that's mental performance in the year 2021. So, props
Right.
to that. Oh
True.
man, I that this is like some phenomenal conversation, and actually kind of perfect segue here. You know, we talked about slightly being a bit of a work in progress as a parent, and you know, Justin, I know you've got some kids, and I've got a daughter and a son on the way, and Lauren, you have some fur babies at home, and
Right.
so this is actually an awesome question about parenting. So, like, if you and I actually I think this is like a world that needs to be explored within mental performance, maybe a tick more. And I mean, Justin, I know you have, but you know, if you guys could give parents of youth athletes one piece of advice, what would it be? And Lauren, I saw you slaying. Just give it to us.
The
What do you
only
got?
the only reason is because you two, I know, are going to have some bombs, like golden nuggets. Like, I want to get mine out of the way.
Oh,
And the one thing, so I don't have kids. Yes, I have a dog, not like a kid. But the only thing I can say from my perspective, and more so from my perspective of working with younger athletes, And
Mhm.
especially my perspective of, the draft. When I was with the Yankees, I worked with our scouting department and the draft process. And so I saw the benefits and the limitations of not allowing your kid to fail.
Mhm.
And so I think if I had any piece of advice for parents, just because I've seen the outcome of what it looks like when we get them in the draft, is let your kid fail. Let
Mm.
them learn the lessons of failure. Teach them the skills of overcoming failure, of dealing with disappointment, of bouncing back, of getting back up when they fall down, and knowing that a failure is not final and that it's a process. And so I would say if I could give any piece of advice, it would be to let your kid fail, because I have firsthand seen what it looks like when you don't. And I have seen the struggle and the horror, the really, it's not horrible, but a really difficult learning curve where if they would have learned this earlier, it really would have sped up their process when it mattered in the pros and in these, whether it's college, whether it's a club team, or whether it's, rec or obviously professionals. Being able to deal with adversity and failure is a huge piece of success. And so I would say that that would be my biggest piece. And I want to throw this over to you guys and let you guys do the rest of this, because you guys, I know, are going to have some good pieces of advice.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good, Lauren. Like spoken like a true parent there. I mean, honestly.
Yeah, I completely agree. I would say, I mean, there's so many directions we can go, right?
Mhm.
There's so many directions, and I just go back to I love. I One of my favorite experiences, and we've all had many experiences with working with youth athletes. There was one I was working with a parent and a high school kid. He was a junior in high school, and the parent and the son was there, and we're doing kind of like a group little conversation, very first conversation we've ever had. And I looked to the dad. I said, why are you here? And he goes, well, I love my son. He's so hard on himself, and he beats up on himself when he doesn't play very well. And I just want him to learn that no matter what he does on the court, I'm still going to love him. I'm going to love him. Like, I just want to help him get out of his way. And then I look at his son, and I said, okay, what are your thoughts? Like, what do you hope to get out of this working with me? And he's not looking at me. He's just staring at his dad like he saw a ghost. And it was awkward. It just got really weird. And I'm looking at him, and his son looks at his dad, and he goes, "Are you serious?" And his dad goes, "Yeah." He goes, "Yeah. I want you to be the best. I just want you to be your best. Get out of your way." He goes, "No, that you'll love me no matter what." And his dad's like, "Yeah." He goes, "I've never heard you say that." He goes, the reason I'm so stressed out is because I feel like I have to play well so that you love me more." And his dad is like, "I am so sorry. No, I don't care if you even play the sport." But the lines were getting crossed up somewhere
Mhm.
where the words weren't matching his behavior. And I looked at him and I said, "I think we're done. we're done here." And I got an email about a week later from the father saying that he didn't realize that how much that of an effect that played on his son. That all he had to do is to continue to show and verbalize to his son, "I love you no matter what. I love you no matter what. You're gonna have good days. You're gonna have bad days, but my love for you isn't defined by what you do on and off the field or court or course or whatever." So that's what I would say. Love your kids and let them know, and make sure they know that you love them no matter what. It's hard. Sports are hard, and they don't need the extra battle at home.
Oof. I mean, so many good things. I mean, Lauren, I think you're spot on about letting your kids fail. My daughter is 2 and walking and running, and it's like my temptation to grab her when she's going to jump off of something is very high. But I also am like, I should let her just do her thing. So she's got some bumps and bruises right now. Um, as we're kind of closing out on time here, I think I'll probably maybe just give a little shout out to my dad with how he handled all of us kids in soccer. I always found my dad to be really interesting because he wouldn't sit with the other parents. He would sit like on a hill, or he would sit like in the top corner by himself and watch the games and stuff. Never, I mean, and you never heard him because he didn't say anything during the games. And after the game, my mom would come up and hug and kiss us and stuff, and then we'd walk over to our dad, and he'd give us a hug and a kiss. And as an athlete, you're like hey, like, how'd I do? Like, you want to ask them like what they saw and stuff. And I'm literally not joking you. I would say like, oh, what'd you think, Dad? My dad every single time would say, do you want me to tell you that you played well, or do you want me to tell you the truth? And I oftentimes found that really funny because like there was actually some times where I would be like, oh, like, just tell me I played well. And he's like, you played well. I love you. Like, let's rock and roll. And there's other times where I'd be like, tell me the truth. And he'd be like, oh, like, you played great, man. Like, I'm so happy. Like, there was really no difference between it. But I always found the option like really interesting with what he did and like how he said it. And again, like, I mean, like, he'd be like, oh, you stepped in one time there. Like, that's not a big deal. Like, it was never like he would never crush or anything like that. But I always found like he wanted to have a conversation with me. It was never about telling. It was always about like engagement. And I feel like that actually has helped a ton, just I think for us and our siblings and like how we have conversations. Like, he never spoke to our coaches for us. He always empowered us to do that. And he said, if there's an issue, like, I want you to feel comfortable having a conversation with an adult. And he's like, I'll help practice have that conversation with you. Like, I'll engage with you guys. But he always empowered us to have those conversations and to engage. And I feel like as Lauren said, like that's part of growing up and helping to deal with those failures, right? Like, your parents aren't always going to be there and stuff. And so it's there's so much we can go into. And I mean, Justin, I know you've written about this too. So I think that's like really important for anyone who's watching this to know, is that Justin's got some books out about this specific topic, which is really important, especially in today's society. So
it's so good. I bought it for my uncle.
Yeah.
It's called Pep Talks. Go check it out.
Yeah, it's really good. It's really, really good. So as always, we just buckled down on questions, and we have come to the time here. Like every show, we're going to end with some Hunt the Good stuff. So Justin, please hit me with some Hunt the Good stuff.
I cleaned the house, and there's just a great feeling of a clean house. It was getting out of hand, and my wife and kids are in California, and so I got to clean the house, and it just feels good.
Love it.
I am grateful for a healthy body. I just started playing soccer again. I joined an outdoor league. I thought I joined an indoor league just when I got the email and it was like outdoor league. I was like, uh-oh.
That's a lot of running, full field.
So I'm thankful for a healthy body, even though I've already like tweaked a couple things. It just reminds me that I'm not flexible and I need help. So
welcome back to the grind, Laura. Closing out on the good stuff. I'm fired up. We get to move into our house next week. So over the past 6 months, my wife and I have been building a house. It is our first home. So we are moving in there. I cannot wait. So much more space. Marlo's going to go crazy. I may or may not even have like a own space for myself to be able to do these episodes. It's going to be exhilarating and exciting. And so I'm wicked excited about getting to move into the house. I can't wait to share that with everybody. So yes, another awesome episode. I gotta be honest with you, like as fired as I am about like this and the topics we covered, the questions we have for next week are absolutely incredible. And so if you would like to tune in next week, we are going to be talking about how we can integrate gratitude into the culture of our teams. We're going to talk about how we can be more flexible when things don't go as expected. And how do we ignore the noise and mental chatter? So if you'd like to hear those questions, please tune in to our next episode. And as always, have a great day, everybody. See you guys.
Yeah.
See ya.